Like that.
Yes.
Welcome to the Fifth Quarter Fantasy Cast. I'm your host, Coach V. I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Dry, and our producer and partial co-host and man who keeps it all together, Peepaw.
Jack of all trades.
Master. What's going on?
Praise Peeps.
Hanging.
Dr. Dry is swagged out 100%.
We've got.
We wore that all day today.
I wore that all day. Went to work in it at my job at DoorDash, and served the customers. But yeah, if you want to love me sexy, you're in the right spot. Welcome to the Fifth Quarter Fantasy Cast. It's been a hell of a week. Yeah, just just doing my thing, neglecting family, playing too much NCAA. That's what I've been up to. What about you boys?
Hanging. Week by week, nothing too exciting here. Just ready for the preseason to get going so we can actually see what kind of players we got in these teams.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. I wish I was getting $40 to $50 million a year contracts like other people. Which is pretty insane that, but that's just the world. That's just the NFL world today is here's $45 million a year and have fun. So,
yeah.
Even if you don't deserve it.
Well, we are thousandaires, so, we can be proud of that. But yeah, we do have a little F-ball on the schedule this week. Thursday, right down the road from me, we got the Hall of Fame game. So get ready for a lot of fireworks there.
Is that when the Fantasy Expo happens?
No, but funny you should mention, I am kind of weird. Like, I'm going to the Fantasy Football Expo by myself on August 11th. I actually have a wild weekend that weekend, August 10th. Seeing the Savannah Bananas come to Cleveland. That's going to be a good time. Miss Megan won tickets. And then August 11th, I'm driving myself down to Canton and just soloing it. And anyway, we some friends of the show there that have much bigger shows that said that they'd be guests on our show. We just got to get up and rolling this year. They'll probably be there. Just get to network with some really cool people, and it kind of jump started us. Just, I don't know. I know it got me excited. Just post more regular content and do more things with you guys. So I'm excited about the Fantasy Football Expo coming up next weekend.
Yeah, it's your second year in a row, so people are going to remember you. They're going to match a face with a name. They're going to ask you how that Fifth Quarter Fantasy Cast is going. You can be like, man, we are up to 40 subscribers. You wouldn't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. Matt still tunes in every week. You see that little eyeball with the 1, that's him. So anyway, well, at least someone likes the show, and we're slowly taking over YouTube. I think we have 42 subscribers now. So, I guess you could say things are getting pretty serious.
So let's get serious today into our divisional matchups and whatnot. So we're going to do 2 today. We're going to do the NFC East and the NFC South. So 2 divisions that I think one's more interesting than the other for sure. And so we're starting off with the more interesting division, the one with more fireworks, NFC East. The first team we're going to hit on is the Washington.
I like the NFC South.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Switched it up.
I'll
I
bring
mean,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
the NFC South does have at least. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. Yeah. So, anyways, the Commanders are our first. I feel like the big stuff with the Commanders is Eckler bounce back. Can that be a thing? Um, you know, predict what kind of season you think Jaden Daniels is going to have. Is it going to be like a RG3 rookie year situation? Is it going to be like an Anthony Richardson flash in a pan and injured kind of thing? Um, and then Jahan Dotson, do we ever trust him again? He's becoming that like yearly. Oh, hey, he's like Kyle Pitts now. It's like, hey, Jahan Dotson, what about him? So, what do you think between Eckler, Daniels, and Jahan Dotson? Give me your take on those things.
I I
So,
would almost bounce. I would say almost lightly, but bounce McLaurin in there as well. He's a give it and a take it guy at the same time. Um, there's a lot of unknowns with this team. Um, Jane Daniels, you always want these young quarterbacks to perform and see what they can do. And they certainly showed it in college. You hope that can transition, but you got a hungry Marcus Mariota right behind him. Probably teach him a few things. So we got that sitting there. Eckler, uh, I was a proud owner for him for several years. Loved him. He also won me a championship one year, and he also took that away from me a couple times. So he's giveth and he's taken from me. Um, I'll save my thoughts on Jahan Dotson for a later day.
He
not
needs
even
more
worth
data.
the comment. Let's see. Exy sexy Eckler. I can see a bounce back there. Especially with a young quarterback, although he's a bit of a dual threat running quarterback. If he needs to dump it down, Eckler's the guy to do it. So I mean, I do like Brian Robinson this year a little bit. Like I know I've had the opportunity to where they were both on the board. It was super late in like a dynasty draft. I usually just go with the younger guy. Even though Eckler, he's one of those all-time players that you love for what he's done, and you hope that he can still do it. Because whenever he's on, it's great. He's great for the fantasy community. He's great for us. Um, but I don't know. I hope he has something left. And I haven't been buying any this off season. Buying a little bit of Brian Robinson, Jahan Dotson. I don't think I'm ready to get hurt again. Just I don't know. I'm not buying Jahan Dotson. Um, Terry McLaurin, I think there's value there. I think he has a pretty tasty ADP. I've never been in on him before because you had to kind of pay up for him. Whereas like he's a bit cheaper now, but he's still the wide receiver one on that team, and he's probably gonna have better quarterback play than what he's had. Jaden Daniels, I see him as he's one of those where it's a polarizing quarterback that you can wait on. He can be a league winner. He has that rushing upside that you really look for in a quarterback, that you kind of need I'm not saying he's gonna finish QB1, but it's in there, like it could happen. They're probably gonna be losing games. The ball's gonna be in his hands. So he's a good option. If you wait forever on quarterback and everybody's got their starter, he might be someone to look at as like the 12th quarterback off the board. Um, not into LMC, Luke McCaffrey. I don't know. I just don't see it. I think he's like Bronny James getting by on that last name. I don't know. Just I don't see anything there. But yeah, I mean, Washington, I think they're about as interesting as they were last year. There's some pieces there, but nothing that gets me super excited.
Before we move on here, I got a question that I thought of here, both of you. At what point, you can argue that Eckler is going to slide in some drafts. So, at what point do you think he's considered a too early, and where do you predict he'll go? Where would you take him? I guess is the question.
Mm.
Mm,
I haven't seen his actual ADP. So I wish I
yeah.
had a better answer there, but yeah, it's definitely good to already start thinking about that. Because I think there are ways to draft. There are guys that you figure are going to be there in the right. You're getting just normal return. And then you have guys where, hey, I might be willing to go a round or two early to get him. I'm going to go get that guy. There are also guys who fall. And when they fall in the draft, that's whenever you kind of pull the trigger there. I think he's one of those guys where I'm not drafting him any earlier than his ADP. So if I see him kind of floating around there, but I don't know. I wouldn't feel like I really lost out on anything. And you're probably getting him late anyway. But yeah, I don't know the exact round, but I'd say whenever you get to a point where there isn't anyone else that you have to have at that point and you want to take a shot, like why not try to reignite the flame with Eckler? That's kind of just my draft philosophy there.
The consensus for fantasy pros in a PPR league has him at overall of a 96.
So like a ninth.
Okay, because see, I was gonna say that's actually like right what I was gonna say. I was gonna say if someone was to take him in a single digit round, I would think they took him too early. Like that would, and that's kind of right where they got him on the cutoff in the 12-team league. They got him right at the end of a 12-team 8-9. So anyway,
I think he's someone you're comfortable with him as like your RB4, in some cases RB3 if you're really strong at wide receiver. I don't know, but yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable with taking him as my RB2 or anything like that.
They got an interesting backfield too. That it's probably going to be split more than it has been ever in the past with him as well. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out.
But
Yeah,
he found his
gotta love
floor
the
last year.
Redskins.
Like he has nowhere to go but up, and people were just so pissed because of where he goes in the draft. So maybe he starts going at the appropriate place and he scores the appropriate amount of points, or even an amount of points that makes you happy because you drafted him not as your first or second round pick, which many people
You
did
don't
last
want
year.
you want him to be an 11th McNugget. We'll just say that.
Yes.
Like you don't have to be depending on him. Like he's probably not going on the God Squad. But if he gets some 11th McNugget awards, I think you're going to be pretty happy with his output this season, and that's doctor's orders.
Boom. Get it. So next team is we're going to hit up on the New York Giants. So we know that Dr. Dry is a big Neighbors man, and you got the Neighbors Jones connection, and Jones coming back off an injury. What's that going to look like? We got superfan Matt chiming in, he's on the Neighbors train as well. Neighbors absolute monster in training camp. He's better than MHJ in my opinion. And so we got some Neighbors love. Can Daniel Jones get it back together and make that connection? And then also Devin Singletary, who revived his career last year with the Texans, and people thought this could be a thing. Is he going to be the workhorse with New York, or is he just going to be a part of a really complicated backfield? So Neighbors, Jones, Singletary, any other New York things to hit on there?
I think it's a very convoluted wide receiver room for them. It's aside from Neighbors, there's really no solid wide receiver two in my opinion. But you got several guys that could make a splash or two throughout the season and really provide some good value for some of those deeper teams out there. So. And they're a team that's probably going to be behind some of these games and should be throwing the ball. So you would hope that that's going to yield some pretty decent PPR results for quite a bit of these guys.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty dog shit offense. Like they're not. I don't know. I know Dayball's supposed to be this offensive guru, but he was offensive doo doo last year. Like let's be honest. So, I mean Malik Neighbors. I'll talk him up all day. So, I was, I think one of the Neighbors, supporters last year. MHJ's coming out and everything, and that's great. And I said it, and I'll say it again. I think Neighbors is the better talent over MHJ. Kind of a bad situation. Pretty much anybody but Danny Dimes, but you know what? I think he can overcome it because he's the only show in town. I think it's going to be kind of. Let's look at Garrett Wilson. He's had terrible quarterback play, but he still gets his. So I think we can look at that and kind of see what Neighbors might do. I think, you know what? We'll just go ahead and say it. I'm going to unveil it. Malik Neighbors will be one of my submissions to the 2024 FQF God Squad. Let's put it on there.
Hey,
So let's stand on that. We'll plant that flag tonight. Yeah, Neighbors, I mean, I wish he had a better situation. That could be the only thing that really stops him, something that's no fault of his own. If he has a bad year, if there's a quarterback change or something, I could see people redrafting him again after being burnt 1 year, but it not being his fault. Malik Neighbors is him. He's looked great in training camp and just heading above everybody else. I think I know, yeah. So I know if you, I know I don't have any Malik Neighbors. I keep missing out. I just don't have the pick. It happens before me, or Superfan Matt might be in the draft and he goes before me or something. So I know I'm comfortable with taking Neighbors as early as like early second round, which is sooner than like the average ADP usually. So like somewhere around like Puka, Garrett Wilson, somewhere in there. I don't think I would take him above like any of your top 3, 4 running backs because running back being so scarce. Um, but yeah, if you do miss out and everything, and you're looking for like a late round flyer, I think Wan'Dale Robinson's still a little bit interesting. He'll be his second year coming off the ACL. He did have a strong ending last year. If you need a cheap wide receiver 7 or 8 that could become a wide receiver 2 or 3 on your team, I think he's a good shot in the dark at the very end. Backfield, I'm not a Singletary guy. I think it's going to be kind of a mess. Keep an eye out for Tyrone Tracy. Don't draft him, but keep an eye out for him. He was a big time catch passing back out of, I think he was out of Purdue. But interesting rookie there. Anyway, I hope they get a real quarterback soon. But that's my take on the Giants.
Yeah, I think they're going to be playing from behind a lot, just like last year. And Singletary benefited just from a really good Texans offense overall. So I wouldn't expect the same stuff from him. And he's not known for his pass catching ability. So I could see him coming off the field a lot because they're down by 30 and we're just going to throw the ball the rest of the game, which is good for Neighbors. So maybe, I don't know, maybe Danny Dimes can play some garbage time and keep Neighbors in business. So our third team in the East is the Eagles. And so them Eagles were looking pretty shit at the end of the year last year. A lot of frustrated fantasy owners. Just really like inconsistency was the name of the game for a lot of those guys. Hurts got his. Is Hurts still going to get his without the tush push? Because we expect Saquon to be taking a more of those, and Hurts keeps getting hurt from all of the rough play that he's done. So they want to take that away from him. So does Jalen still have value minus the tush push? AJ Brown was inconsistent. He had that dead period in the middle of the year last year that was just weird for a lot of owners. Still finished well, but probably led to a lot of L's for fantasy owners during that period when he wasn't hitting at all. So what do we think about the Eagles? Jalen, Saquon, AJ, Devontae Smith. What do you got?
You almost forgot the most important member of the Eagles squad is.
Yeah.
I'll save that.
Donkey teeth.
The infamous Dallas Goedert. So, as far as another thing you bring up, the tush push is, I don't know if we know if the NFL is going to get rid of that for this year, as well as they lost Jason Kelce. So,
rest in peace.
Does that he's no longer with us this year? So does that change the way they run this offense at all when they're close to the goal line? I would be inclined to believe that's going to lead for a lot more touches for Saquon. He's on a much better offense than he was last year. It's going to be able to move the ball. So all things considered, I think Saquon's going to, in theory, should have another productive year ahead of him. And obviously Devonta Smith, you can almost think of as a wide receiver 1, but he's burnt me a couple times, and it seems to be either feast or famine for either AJ Brown or Devonta Smith. So take it as you will, and he can give you some massive games, and other times he'll sit there and give you a dud. So take it for what it's worth on that one.
Yeah, so I'm pretty into Saquon this. I'll be hitting the Quan a little bit if he falls the right way. So Saquon say I guess I'd be comfortable with him mid-second. I know a lot of people are taking him in that early second, but he's one of those I don't go and get, but if he falls to me, I'm into that sort of thing. Want me a piece of that action, as Coach V would say last year. And so Saquon just in a good offense for once. It's exciting to see. And maybe he has a couple good years left in him. He does usually have a good finish even though it might not feel like it at times. Um, I think Jalen Hurts. I think they clean house and like get a new OC or something like that in Philly. Um, I think they did that because whatever the hell happened last year just can't happen again. Like I'm surprised that that was the downfall. Love that Jalen Hurts still was a dependable QB1 through and through, but AJ Brown really disappeared. I think he bounces back. I think he's just too good. Too good for that to happen again. Devontae Smith, like I think he's someone you're comfortable with as a your wide receiver 2 on your team. And anyway, yeah, Donkey Teeth, he's out there. Like, scoop him up wherever you can, expose yourself to Donkey Teeth. So Dallas Goedert, definitely an interesting option at tight end. An interesting looking man. He's got curly hair and curly teeth. Scoop him up. That's doctor's orders.
Yeah, I'm okay with Hurts becoming a great passer, and like not getting roughed up because he can throw the ball really well. And so, one thing I will say, which is something that I have in like a dynasty league, but I don't think the Eagles are a stacked team. Like, don't stack Hurts with any of those guys. Like, at least this year, unless the passing game just really goes off, it's because it's so feast or famine. It's Donkey Teeth one game, it's Devontae the other game, it's AJ one game. Maybe you can stack with AJ Brown. But as we saw last year, you couldn't. Like, how many people had a Jalen AJ Brown stack and were pissed for like 5.5, 6 weeks? Um, so, anyways, I don't know. The Eagles were sad at the end of the year. Hopefully, they turn it around because there's a lot of fantasy implications to their offense. People really rely on their offense to get stuff done. But I think consensus is that Saquon's going to go the off and have a great year. He has
That's the
great
part
years.
I'm most excited about.
Like, if he can get points on the Giants, he can get some points on the Eagles. So, last team, which we know is everyone's favorite team, Superfan Mitch loves the Cowboys.
America's team.
So the Cowboys had such a boring offseason. They really are. They have the same exact team from last year minus Pollard. So lack of a running game. If you want to count Ezekiel Elliott as a running game, sure, but
He's going to revive this squad. Bring him back to the glory days.
Yeah,
so
the offseason, they got rid of Zeke, they brought in Zeke, so
can the Cowboys have success without a running game? We saw last year they just abandoned it, and it was fine for CD and for Dak. You kind of had to pick your shot at tight end because they would kind of rotate through a few different guys. But yeah, I mean, Dak and CD, I think that connection is going to be fine. Is there anyone else to mine for fantasy gold on the Cowboys?
I think the one thing you got to worry about with Dak is injuries. It seems every year something pops up, but I mean, you have CD Lamb. I mean, arguably a 1-1 pick in a lot of drafts, so they can produce. I really did like Jake Ferguson. Tried to get him in several leagues last year when he started coming on the scene. He seemed to be quite a favorite of Dak in the red zone. Love those red zone targets any of these tight ends can get. So He might be a sneaky tight end pick for some people in their leagues, but um, running, Rico Dowdle, he's a fast little guy. I mean, it's you got to love speed. You can't replace that. So that's something to potentially watch out for as the season goes on. Even Deuce Vaughn, he's Kansas, I believe, is where he went to school at, and he had some quite productive years there. So he got some
State.
speed. There you go. He's got some speed on the team, and just a matter of harnessing it and finally bringing that one together.
Yeah, I was really hoping Deuce Vaughn would be more of a thing last year. I love that Lord Farquaad looking ass motherfucker. He, I mean, he's just so little. Like, so, and that's why I liked him. A lot of people are like, "Oh, he's a little guy." It's like, you think he's gonna be easier to tackle because he's a little guy? Like, good luck trying to catch him. But anyway, I guess people could catch him. So, anyway, but yeah, I love Lord Farquaad Deuce Vaughn. Anyway, he's just not a thing right now. But man, I would have loved if the Cowboys would have drafted Jalen Wright out of Tennessee. Instead, he's like in a three-headed backfield in Miami. Um, but or if they would have went Jonathan Brooks or Trey Benson or just one of those top backs in this draft. I know they say it was a weak back draft, but I think it would have helped if someone got a good landing spot, like in Dallas. That would be a good landing spot. But I'm not getting any Zeke throws. For the first time, like I remember. And Coach V, we played in some leagues where, I know I was always trying to get Des Bryant, loved having him on the team, throwing up the X, even through like whenever he was having troubles with, um, you know, whatever he was doing. Like you kind of worried about him getting suspended all the time, but then he got it together. I know you were a big Miles Austin man.
Oh man, he
So
was kind of the original donkey teeth a little bit.
yeah, he was toothy, man. Miles Austin. Like, so, there was that. You had Marion Barber, actual rest in peace. Marion Barber,
Yeah,
what up, Wade? Like, you had Philip Tanner from class. Um,
yeah.
we had a class with him. But yeah, I mean, these aren't your Cowboys from 10 years ago. So I mean, it's pretty much Dak, CD, uh,
Just sit and watch
Brandon
the
Cooks, if you're into that sort of thing, Josh Scobie, if you're into that sort of thing. Aubrey, he's a good kicker. If you need a kicker, look at the Cowboys kicker. We don't talk enough kicker on this show.
Oh, God.
Thank you for
Yeah.
your love.
That's when you know
Someone
we're
had to say
struggling.
it.
We're struggling
Yeah,
with a
so
team when there's hot kicker talk going on.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with the kicker. Who doesn't love a good missed 30-yard field goal to give you negative points? That's fantastic.
oh yeah.
I love it.
And but I do got a little nugget here for everyone. You talked about mining for players. Let's mine really deep. So, there's a guy, Ryan Flournoy, if you're into that sort of thing. He's from SEMO. Nothing really pops, but I think the guy's pretty ready. I think he could definitely compete for that wide receiver 3 spot. Brandon Cooks, as Coach V said, a real problem in the locker room for some reason. So maybe he starts causing trouble in the locker room and Ryan Flournoy becomes the number 2, and then CeeDee Lamb say he holds out the whole year, then Ryan Flournoy's the number 1. We could be looking at a 2,000-yard receiver here. Dak has to throw to somebody. So, don't draft him though. You don't want to waste a draft unless you're in a super deep 30-round draft or something like that, or a really deep dynasty. Throw him on the taxi squad. He's a 24-year-old rookie. But he is. I watched tape on him. There's not much, but I like him. I kind of like him as like a deep stash. Um, Hopefully they pay CeeDee Lamb. They need to be smart here. Just pay the man. I think he's the arguable 1.1 for a reason. And I think he can definitely repeat what he did last year. He put up a historic year last year. We all thought Tyreek was running away with that number 1 overall finish. And just yeah, CD wouldn't, he made everybody CD's nuts and put up a number 1 put up a number 1 finish. So I can definitely see him doing it again. Once again, one of those only shows in town kind of things. And And Dak, he's someone that you don't have to spend anything on, and you can get the number 3 quarterback from last year. So, anyway, not a lot going on in Dallas, but just make sure you get Ryan Flournoy in the 3rd round.
For what it's worth, the last season, the Cowboys had the first-ranked pass touchdown team, the 3rd in pass yards, 5th in offense, 4th in touchdown, 1st in red zone. So Dak's able to get stuff done with this team still, and I mean, just goes to show you got Dak and you got CD. So
Oh, look, we got breaking news from superfan Matt with he read Dallas is close to paying Lamb 4 years, $136 million. So
worth it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think. I mean, they're really in a bind. I think they pay CD,
Yep.
and they may or may not let Dak walk. And Jerry, always trying to relive the glory days, goes all in on Deion's kid next year. And
You know who he would be good?
Anderson.
A good guy to be in a commercial where he says, "Back in my day." That'd be totally his role in that commercial.
He's
I remember
old as
back
shit.
50 years ago.
Yeah, you could get a candy bar for a nickel.
Oh no, I fell down and scuffed my muff.
So before we head to the NFC South, we're going to predict 1 through 4 how these teams finish. And so I will start off because I wrote mine down while y'all were talking. I'm going to go Eagles 1, Cowboys 2, Washington 3, and Giants 4.
Ditto. That was exactly what I was thinking.
I was gonna say ditto, but let me go.
Oh shit.
I like it.
Ooh,
It's
This
that old
is-
man knowledge.
And that may have been how they finished last year. I can't remember.
this is. Yeah, we're gonna go with the Eagles, Commanders, Cowboys, and Giants.
Oh,
Whoa.
nice. So big come up by Jaden Daniels. Big come up.
Yeah,
I like
love
that. There's potential for that.
I like it.
Yeah.
So-
And I can see the Cowboys falling behind. Like, I mean, I just don't see a lot of zip in their game this year. But the Giants will universally suck. So
I mean, someone's got to suck on prime time every single week, so might as well be the Cowboys.
So
I mean-
let's go over to the NFC South. And so we're going to start with Baker the Baby Maker and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's fun to say. I like that. So
Right off the tongue too. That was nice.
just a lot of ba-ba-da, 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 ba-ba-da. So
Feeling the flow, working it.
so it's year 2 with Baker. And so, Tampa Bay surprised a lot of folks. Things were looking so nice. Mike Evans continues to be timeless. Who was it? Whose boy was it? Ben or someone who loved Rashad White?
Rashad God White.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that was
Rashad White,
Ben.
but Ben with the Rashad White love. So year 2, do they just keep rolling? I think they look good in year 2. I think Baker keeps slinging it. The offense keeps rolling, and they've added a few little weapons here and there, and everyone's paid. Everyone's happy, So there's no disgruntled employees on the team.
I think they look good in them creamsicle jerseys, and that's about wraps up what they look good in. But no, the Rashad White, I mean, he's a guy that's been able to produce these last year and I believe the year before. So I like him. I don't know how early I'd reach for him. Baker the Baby Maker, I am going to pass on this season. Just I have never drafted him in the past, and I don't want to start this year. So why change?
There's too many guys better.
Exactly. So Mike Evans, he seems to get it done every single year. I wouldn't reach for him, but there's nothing to say I don't think he could do it again this year. So something to look at too. And I know, Doctor, you got a guy in the running back room there that you are fond of. So I'll let you.
It was. So I think it was until the combine, and then I started to come off, and then he went to the Buccaneers, and then I really came off. But anyway, yeah, I was like really into Bucky Irving. But you know, he's like the same guy as Rashad White, and they're not gonna go away from Rashad the God. A staple of the 11th McNugget. He's always peeping through down there at the bottom, right through the box. And I mean, yeah, I'm not touching Baker the Baby Maker. I'm not touching God Chriswin. I liked him a few years ago, but like that was like pre-COVID. Like he hasn't done shit since then. So like anyway, but Mike Evans, I mean, the guy just all he does is put up 1,000-yard seasons. You know, and he's not the sexiest pick, but if he falls to you and you don't like anyone else in that range, you know, take a shot. Like it's probably going to pay off. You know, Rashad the God, a lot of like big time analysts will say how inconsistent he was. If inconsistent is the RB4 in fantasy, sign me up. You know, I'd love to see what he could do with a little consistency. So, anyway, I mean, call it inconsistent if you want. The guy scores fantasy points. You know, he's definitely, you know, good in that where you can like wait on a running back, and if he falls to you, you're pretty happy about it, I think. Um, I do have some love for Bucky Irving out of college, and then I think I like didn't like his 40 time, and that was enough to like sour me a little bit. And then he went to the Buccaneers, and then I was like, oh, he needs an injury, and Rashad doesn't get hurt. So he so anyway, yeah, I mean they drafted Jalen McMillan, spent some pretty good draft capital there on him. I know some people are in on McMillan out of Washington. I think he did well in college. I'm staying away from almost everything having to do with the Buccaneers this year. Maybe a little bit in on White, maybe a little bit in on Mike Evans if he were to fall or something, but not much for me there. What do you guys think?
I like McMillan. I think he's like a lock for wide receiver 3, but he might even overtake Godwin. Uh, just like the way things are looking. I mean, that was kind of the prediction, like pre-training camp, was that he's good enough to do that, and then now, which obviously training camp hype, but he's getting a lot of love in training camp, and so talk about a cheap but effective, player that could work for someone late in the draft, one of those late round picks that you get, and ends up being, your wide receiver 3 or a flex option. So that'd be cool. So I like Jalen McMillan a lot. So we'll see with the Bucks, but I don't know. Bucks are kind of like the value team, like a lot of value players, like guys you're not going to have to pay a lot for, but you might get something out of. So we're always looking for value. It's a good thing. It's a
Who's
value
the
meal.
kicker?
You said who's the kicker?
He's not worth
Yeah.
anything. It's fine.
P-Paul knows I bet he could name every kicker for every team.
I got the perfect stance for them all too. Chase McLaughlin.
Oh, the Mick.
Love that guy.
Not an awesome name drop or anything.
So our second team in the South is the most exciting team in the South. So many off-season things, mainly just the addition of Kirk Cousins, but it feels like a brand new team because there's someone capable throwing the ball. So everything should be good in Atlanta, from Cousins to London and Bijan with no Arthur Smith cock blocking him. And then also Kyle Pitts may finally have a real season. Is there any reason why a good season couldn't or shouldn't happen for Atlanta?
Injuries.
Yeah.
I mean,
Arrests.
they got it. I mean, you got Kirko chains. Doctor knows a little bit about the chains. A little bit of drip going on here tonight. But
It's
Here's
real.
a question: Is do you think? I mean, on paper they got everything. I mean, Drake London should have a fantastic season, and maybe this is the year to take Kyle Pitts, and you can probably get him a little bit later. I don't know if people are hyping up his draft pick any with the revived offense, but he might be a tight end to target amongst the scarce tight end room out there. But be interested to hear y'all's input on whether you think Penix is going to have a legitimate shot this year, and if so, how late into the season will he get his chance?
Man,
Uh,
I think Penix is a badass option to draft late because Kirk goes down, which could certainly happen. They want to kick the tires on Penix and see what they got. And he's walking into a dynamic offense. You're not drafting him to start him, but like if he's there, man, there's not a lot of backup quarterbacks who would walk into a better offensive situation than Michael Penix. So I like Michael Penix at the back of the draft.
yeah, I like Michael Penis in a like I guess a really deep league. You're definitely keeping an eye on him. But I mean, I don't know. And the thing is, like Kirk Cousins, he's 36. Still awesome, but he is coming off of an injury. Apparently, he's healed up very, very well, and he's been given the keys to a very dynamic offense that they're finally going to use the right way. Um, I don't think that they're gonna rush Penis out there. I think they're going to keep Kirky out there. They paid him a shit ton of money. Why would they bench him unless he's, I don't know, just gets the bag and then S's the B. So, I don't know, did he ever end up on the shit the bed award last year, the sleep number award? I don't think he did. But if
I
he
mean, he
becomes
was
one of those guys, yeah, if he becomes one of those guys, maybe that's when they start, really gazing at Michael Peters. So anyway, I mean, yeah, I'm very excited about this offense just based off of, what the coach says. Raheem Moore's super excited about what he has. Like they're finally going to bring out those Lambos that they have sitting in the garage that, they weren't using for so long. I think Bijan Robinson will finish as the RB1. I think he's, we everybody says he's a generational talent. A lot of people were burnt by him last year, but they weren't burnt by him. They were burnt by Arthur Butthole Smith. And he's gone now. And so they don't have to worry about that. I think Drake London finally gets that QB upgrade that has been the only thing missing. The pedigree's always been there. He has the draft capital, he has all the measurables, he has the athleticism, everything's there, but he had terrible quarterback play for those first 2, 3 years. Um, Drake London's younger than Tank Dell. He's still very young. He's like 22, 23, and he has, I guess, like what, 2 years of experience under his belt. I think he's someone that I could see myself drafting. He's like the guy that I would target if Neighbors goes. I probably want Drake London right after. So like mid second. So I'm very excited about Drake London. Kyle Pitts, I'm not gonna be hurt again, but I'm ready to be hurt again. Like it's, a lot of people, and we say this every year with him, and he's still so young, but it has never been his fault. It's always been terrible quarterback play or Arthur Smith wanting to get Jonnu involved. His son Jonnu Smith involved, and so I mean, Kyle Pitts will no longer be Kyle Pitts. He's going to have a really good season. He's one of those guys that will never take the first tight end off the board. But, whenever we get into that range of, Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts, Trey McBride, still very high-end options that have that potential TE1 in them that you can get as like the sixth, seventh tight end off the board. Sign my ass up. Just a lot to be loved here. So I'm very excited about that Falcons offense. You can take that to the bank.
I know you think Bijan is RB1 this year, but where do you draft Algier? I mean, he had a 1,000-yard season 2 years ago.
I
Obviously
mean,
dropped off, but we attribute that to other things. So where do you draft him at? Because he's obviously got the talent too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's got RB1 overall written all over him, but I wouldn't take him before, taking a real shot on Young Wei Fu. So that's someone I think you have to get on your team. But Tyler Algier definitely a good option as your first running back. Someone that you want in that RB1 slot. Don't let the predictions fool you. If I'm him, I'm taking him somewhere in that range of like between Breece Hall and Jahmyr Gibbs. Mid to late first. Bijan's already off the board. Go get you some Tyler Algier.
Tyler Algier is set up, if there was an injury, he's set up
Yeah.
to slide into, kind of like Michael Penis.
A primo role.
Yeah, I mean, he could do some serious damage, but yeah, I mean, we're talking like a, mid 14th round situation or something like that.
Yeah, I would reach for him a little bit. I would go solid mid rounder on him, to be honest with you, especially with as scarce as running backs are and the talent there is there. I think I would reach a little bit higher up for him than some others would. That's my opinion. If you draft against me, you can take him a lot later than that. So that's where I would, I don't know exact round where I would take him at, but solid mid is, I think, where I would go for him personally.
I mean, he was last year, right after the weird game where he got all that action, he was like the hottest waiver wire addition at the beginning of the year because it's like, oh shit, are they giving him the ball like in this offense? Okay, fine, here you go. So he has a lot of value. It's just we'll have to see how they break down the running back situation and if it's going to be any kind of split early on or if it's just like lead back and backup roles. So.
All right.
Third team. Oh,
Kind of
go
a
ahead.
kind of a general question. In 2024, do we still feel like we have to handcuff our high-end RB1, or are we targeting other late starters instead of that handcuff? Or does it depend on the situation? Because I'm leaning toward not handcuffing and just getting situations I like. I don't have to have that piece of that offense.
Well, you can't handcuff most teams anymore because most teams are splitting the backfield. There's
That's
only
true.
a few handcuff situations, and I think Atlanta is an actual true handcuff backfield. But like,
Cordell Patterson's gone.
right? I mean, like
He's with Arthur Smith.
So like
It's pretty-
the Steelers are a great example of there's no such thing as a handcuff with the Steelers. Like that's just a rotating backfield. And like, well, hell, Detroit, there's no such thing as a handcuff there. Those are two lead backs. So most teams have gone to that.
I mean, and this probably goes back to my reasoning for taking Algier mid-ninth is because I like to be the guy that is Mr. Studio handcuff. So I'll slide in there and take your guy that you were hoping to get a little bit later than that. So I personally like doing that. I'll take the other handcuffs that other people aren't willing to take. So I like to fill that void in their heart.
Man,
I'm probably doing that too because it's like, oh, I don't have the starter, but I got the handcuffs. It really, and if they are someone who handcuffs, then whenever it comes time, they're panicking, their guy went down, but they feel like they have to have that same situation. You're the guy to reach out to. So, kind of like defensive drafting. I think it's an interesting way to go.
look out for Peepaw's spinoff podcast, Handcuff Rehab, where he
Yeah.
takes scrap heap players and waits for you to trade for them. So,
The hottest commodity, hot tip. Hottest commodity are punters. Back up for the kicker. Don't forget it.
This is why you come to the fifth quarter fantasy camp.
This is the real reason you subscribe for this good detail right here.
We have all the Ryan Stonehouse coverage you could want. And
So
don't be mad when we take Brian Angle.
So the New Orleans Saints are our third team we're going to go over in this division. And the Saints are like the exact same team as last year. Like there is nothing's changed with the Saints. From Jawan Johnson to Alvin Kamara to Chris Olave to Derek Carr, who they just like duct tape his shoulder onto his body and they just say, "Go have some fun, kid." Like that's their. I mean, that's pretty much what's going on there. So Chris Olave, we know these guys. Um, is there any reason to expect some sort of greatness here, or is it just going to be repeat of last year for all those guys?
Taysom Hill, another solid year, same as last
Oh,
year.
yeah.
Gotta love that guy. Stealing everyone's quarterback points and running back points and tight end points. Gotta love the guy. He's a jack of all trades. I gotta love that guy like that. So, um,
He's
you're right, though. It is the same team as last year. You're drafting Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, barring another suspension and shenanigans in the offseason. He's a solid PPR machine. And I think that's my take and leave.
Yeah, I mean, Taysom Hill, what a fun guy to start whenever, say you don't have that stud tight end, but Taysom Hill starting at quarterback that week. And anyway, you can basically start two QBs. It's awesome. Joe Webb was a fun one that you could start in the wide receiver slot whenever he would get a random QB start.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of reason to be a little more excited about New Orleans. They got a new offensive coordinator, Gary Kubiak's boy. I forget his Clint Kubiak, I think. And apparently he was the passing game coordinator for the 49ers. So definitely something to look forward to there. I think some of the like Dennis Allen, I don't think he's a very good offensive mind at all. I don't think he's used Alvin Kamara the right way. I don't think he's ran that offense the right way, and it's looking really bad. Also, Derek Carr was hurt a lot last year, and he's supposed to be healthy. So I mean, Chris Olave, he's someone that toward that end of the second round, like I don't know, you don't like him as your wide receiver one that much, but you love him as your wide receiver two if he falls to you in the late second or early third. He goes in that Jalen Waddle. I think him and Jalen Waddle are very similar in where they go. But Olave, he hasn't really had that top end season that we've seen out of him yet, but we know it's in there somewhere. He's an Ohio State receiver. They tend to produce. I think LSU receivers are better, but people will disagree with me up here. But I mean, you got Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. That's one of Coach V's boys.
Hey,
I know Shaheed, he should be the clear-cut wide receiver two now with Michael Thomas is gone. He was just kind of wasting space anyway. But I do think it's still the Alvin Kamara show, definitely still a PPR monster. And I've heard this several times in the offseason. Alvin Kamara is such a good PPR player. He's had one 1,000-yard rushing season in his entire career, just one. And so he gets a lot through the air, receptions, touchdowns. The guy can do it all. He is getting older. I think he's 29 or something like 28, 29. But they're also in salary cap hell. He's going to be stuck on the roster at least another year or two. Kendre Miller already hurt in first day of training camp, and like coach is pretty displeased with him. So any Kendre Miller truthers, I'm sorry, but I don't think it's going to be a thing. I think it's still going to be the Alvin Kamara show. I'm trying to think. Because I'm usually good for like a cheap rookie that probably won't pan out. But Bub Means, he might be an interesting character. Don't draft him, but keep an eye out for him if he has a good week one, week two. Bub Means out of Pittsburgh, Pitt. Um, but yeah, I mean, not a whole lot to be excited about. I mean, you still got uh, what's his name? Who's their kicker? You still got
Blake Groupie.
Yeah. The groupie. I thought it was someone else, but I'm
Yeah,
living in the
he,
past.
he moved on. He needed new scenery. He was tired of the bead vibe. He needed just to move on with his life. He grew up.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, that competitive kicker market in New Orleans, like, it heated up. And anyway, but if you're into groupies, like that could be your guy. So but yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely some reasons to be excited about New Orleans this year. Derek Carr, the guy sucks, but whatever. He at least he like whenever his shoulder's not hurt, he does sling the ball around. He'll throw a lot of interceptions, but they'll be down a lot. So, maybe a lot of catches for Chris Olave, and Alvin Kamara, and that's probably about it. But maybe Rashid Shaheed has some explosive plays too. Rashid Shaheed, that's the guy where that might be a good last round pick for you, or somewhere around there. But yeah, Nolan's a little bit of a reason to be a little excited, but nothing too crazy.
I liked Shaheed. I had picked him up last year, threw him in for a couple starts, and he panned out on those games. He had those deep balls and ended up with receptions and touchdowns.
He's
I view
fast.
him
Yeah.
very fast, very similar as Jameson Williams with the Lions. You think the only wide receiver they got is St. Brown, Sun God, hashtag God Squad. He
He panned out.
Yeah, I mean, and you think that's all they got, but you've got these guys that are fast, deep threats, and that's kind of similar to what Rashid Shaheed can do with the squad, assuming Derek Carr can get the ball out of his hands. So I think it's a really good sleeper pick on the team right there. So that's good. Good
So
mention.
before we move from New Orleans, one last thing to note is I want to just double check, but I did double check, and Jameis Winston is gone, right? So
Yeah, he's in Cleveland. He lives near me.
the literal number 2 quarterback is Taysom Hill this year. So Carr goes down. He's extremely injury prone. Hill has probably a lot more value this year than he did last year because there's nobody. There's
They have
no
Spencer Rattler.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So anyways, so Taysom Hill, maybe you bump him up a little bit more just because he'll probably get some serious starts because Carr can't finish a season.
Start him at tight end though.
There you go.
Yeah, don't make him your quarterback.
Yeah, don't. Just have a second quarterback at tight end.
So last team is the Carolina Panthers. I don't know, kind of an odd team. Had a terrible year last year, but Bryce Young, second year, making some changes. Deontay Johnson on the squad. Is there anything there? Jonathan Brooks, that could be exciting. He is, coming back from his injury. Will he? I don't know if he's going to be playing at the beginning of the year or if he's going to be out a few weeks. But yeah, so what are we looking at with the Panthers? Do you want to expose yourself to Bryce Young for cheap? He's a cheap date. Do you want to holler at Deontay Johnson? A lot of youthful folks you could expose yourself to on this squad. What are you thinking?
If your flavor is more old man, you got Adam Thielen as well to consider. It's young or old, it depends on your taste. But I've been liking the things I've seen out of Xavier Legette so far in preseason, and he's got some. It's like that guy in what's the Longest Yard? The guy you can't understand, like yep, that was what you said. So
he reminds me of Farmer Fran from the Water Boy.
Yes, that guy. So, but no, I like the things that have came out from him this year, and Bryce Young's talked highly about him too. So, I'd like to see what he can do with anything. And Jonathan Brooks, I'd like to get your guys' input on where you think he should be drafted with kind of I don't want to say unknown rookie, but where you think a good pick is for a guy like that and a team like this.
Brooks, I think, and I'm buying a little bit of him. And I don't know. I would think somewhere in like the 6th to 8th round for Brooks is I think where I've been seeing him fall. It's scary because he's coming off a pretty big injury, but from what I heard, there were like no other ligaments damaged or anything like that around the injury, so the recovery should be pretty clean. Another thing that I liked was, he didn't spend a lot of time at Texas, but they were telling him, "Hey, go to the NFL." Like, they wouldn't say that if they didn't think that he would recover and all that. I think he does start the season. I've heard that his recovery's gone really well. It's been really clean, and he's not on Baltimore, so so he's not, gonna re-injure a whole bunch like their running backs do. Um, and yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, if I'm exposing myself to anyone on this team, let's see. I don't, I don't know. Like it's probably Jonathan Brooks, and then I mean he is like a legal adult. He's consenting. Other than that, I'm staying away from Thielen. Just too old. I mean, I don't know if you need like but actually, Deontay Johnson, that's kind of a good option, and he falls in drafts too. So you're getting the wide receiver one on an ascending offense. Another key piece here is David Canales, who was with the Bucks. He's like the quarterback whisperer. He helped Baker play so well. Now he is in the ear of Bryce Young, exposing himself to Bryce Young, and maybe that's a good thing for all of us. So, it's they got some like just guys, but like Jonathan Mingo, trash last year, just dropped balls, everything. Pause. But you got Jonathan Mingo, you got Xavier Legette, you got Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen. Like you have kind of an okay receiving core, at least an athletic receiving core. Legette, he's an interesting player that like might be worth a fly or two, somewhere in the mid rounds. Whenever you start taking your not top end rookies, but like that next tier down. So I mean, it's uh, well, we just got a comment from Matt that apparently Deontay Johnson has been dropping every pass in training camp.
Every
So
single one.
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he's having a bad couple days,
Maybe he's
but
talking about Quentin Johnson.
yeah, maybe, yeah, maybe he meant Quentin. So I mean, I don't know. Like I think, yeah, Deontay, he and they even came out and said, I think I read it today or yesterday, I think it was today, like their offense is where is Deontay Johnson, and they're just looking to find him. So I know that he's going to be pretty involved. He might not do much with the volume, but there will be volume there for him possibly. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'm not like dying to get any of these guys, but if they fall, I'll expose myself to them.
Yeah, I think there's players to get Jonathan Brooks, Deontay Johnson, Xavier Legette, and you don't have to pay a lot for them. And it's kind of like roll the dice. One of those players has to do something, and so like get a piece of the action, and just see what happens. And because you're not
Expose
going to look
yourself to the
dumb.
Carolina Panthers.
No one's going to judge you for it because you took all these guys in like the teens or super late round. So no one's going to
Yeah,
judge if it's wrong. But if
another
it's
thing
right,
when you're drafting, like just get guys that you like. If you like one of those guys, it's fantasy football is about, first and foremost winning championships, but other than that, having fun. So I mean, at least get guys that you like.
so we got to predict this division. So I've got it broken down with
I
Atlanta
do think
1.
Jatavion Sanders is the starter too.
Mhm.
Just to answer Matt's
Oh,
question.
oh, there we go. Yeah, man. He's going to use that against us in fantasy. So I got ATL 1. I got Baker, the baby maker, and the Buffalo Buccaneers. 2. I got Panthers 3, and I got Saints 4. That's what I got.
Let's, as much as I want to be different, I don't know if I can do that here. Falcons have everything, barring catastrophe, to have a pretty dang good season here. So we'll go with the Falcons, the Bucks, Panthers, and Saints.
All right.
I'm gonna go with the Falcons, the Falcons, the Falcons, and the Falcons. They're just that much better than everyone else in the division. But you know what? I'm gonna go on a limb here. But I do think it's like Falcons and then a big drop, and then the other three teams. I think it's gonna be Falcons, Panthers as a surprise team. Saints, Buccaneers.
Whoa, the Bucks really fell off there.
And that's that.
That's all right. You don't believe in Baker, and
Nah.
yeah. So the Panthers are like Peepaw's Commanders. Big jump all the way up to second place.
Yeah, and I
Maybe
really don't
make
even
the
believe
playoffs.
in them that much. I
Yeah.
mean, big jump. They might be 7-10.
That's
It's
huge.
like it's
That's
gonna be a low. It's gonna be pretty low, for that division. But yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, these were fun to break down. I think like initial look, you're kind of like, oh, these divisions kind of suck, and then like when you really get into it, it's like, all right, there might be some good pieces here.
yeah. That's why we do it. That's why we break it down.
We do it
So
for the people.
we do it for the people, the little people, big people, medium-sized people, the
Yeah,
All the people.
the
all the
sheeple,
people. Yeah.
the heeple.
White people, black people, Hispanic people, Asian people, male people, female people, trans people, all the people.
Anyone can join.
Yeah.
We're open to all members. So well, thanks for watching, everyone. We're gonna break down 2 more divisions next time. So
Let's
keep
do it.
rolling
Let's
in.
do it. Let's do it live. What 2 do we want to do?
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Well, we need some AFC. So I say let's do AFC West.
All right. AFC West. Let's just do it. AFC South. It's a big one.
North and West.
Okay.
South and West.
All right. So look out for that, everyone, next time. AFC West, AFC South. We're breaking those down. And so, yeah, I did it last time. One of y'all lead the way on the 5 important characteristics of
All right. Peepaw, prove yourself.
We got 5 things to do here, boys. You go, we're gonna live, laugh, love, like, subscribe to Fifth Quarter Fantasy.
Money, son.
The rest of the